Come on in. Get in here. Hey, everybody, come on in. Get in here. Strengthen Your Soul is on. Get on in here. Come on in. It's good to be with you. Get in here. It's snowing outside and raining, and we need you. Come on in. Get in here. Just getting everything set up here. A touch behind. Want to make sure my mic is working the whole time. So tonight, come on in. Come on in. Grab a drink. As always, to review Strengthen Your Soul, here's the framework for the night. Part of what we're trying to do in these really troubling times of coronavirus, where we're cooped up, we're locked up, we're dealing with loss, is to do this, is to actually get to a place where we can experience a strengthening of our soul, the thing that makes us us. And so grab a drink. At 8:02, we're going to start. We're going to get going. At 8:10, we're going to actually try. We're going to lean in and go, hey, if Jesus said there was strength for our soul, I want to experience it. And then at 8:15, we'll wrap up. So get in here, grab a drink, say hello. What are you having tonight for a drink? Tonight I'm a little bit unconventional. I am drinking a protein shake, which is a little bit weird, but it kind of fits with the topic. Tonight we're talking about pain and how do you deal with it. And since we're, coming out of Easter, I'm trying to, get rid of the ham that I've eaten. So with that, I'm trying to process it all out. So anyways, grab your favorite drink, whether it's coffee or anything like that. My wife is watching. She also is having a protein shake. So with that being said, let's take a drink together. Cheers. And let's talk about your soul. So I want to talk tonight, and I want to share with those of you who are tuning in either live or via recording, one of the most painful experiences in my whole life. And one of the things that we must learn to do if we are going to have a strong soul is to figure out how to process pain well. So in like 1 minute, I'm going to share with you one of the most painful moments ever in my life. So how do you deal with pain? I want you to do something for me as we get going here. I want you to bring to mind a moment of great pain. You might even pray, think praise is the language I like to use. But go, God, if you are inside of faith, you trust in Jesus, go, Jesus. If you're not sure yet, it's okay. Go, God, if you're out there, would you bring to mind a moment in my life, a moment of pain that you want to bring purpose to, or you'd like me to process tonight? Just think about that and let that thought kind of come into your mind. Don't resist it. Don't explain away whatever moment is there, but just let it rise up. And now let me share with you one of the most painful moments in my life, and then how I actually used it to strengthen my soul, and how Jesus, who promised he would give you rest for your soul, a strong soul, a vibrant life, how he did that in mine. So many of you know I grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan, God's land, the place where you can watch your dog run away for 6 weeks. You just get on your roof and you can just watch. But I grew up there. And I'm going to just pop it out here. I think it's working for y'all. No, if it stops working, I'm just going to get rid of it and unplug it and just use the lower quality. Been having some issues with it lately. So my family, extended family, is really close. Yeah, we lost sound. I'm just going to do this. There we go. Now we don't need to worry about it. Thank you for letting me know about the sound. Okay, one of the most painful moments is simply this. About a year and a half ago, I went to see one of the people I love most on this planet, and that's my grandma. And my grandma, she was never a wealthy woman. Never, ever, ever. But she was, I'm very close with my mom.
But my aunt and my grandma is one of the sweetest, kindest ladies I've ever met in my entire life. She doesn't really have a faith that I know of, but she's an unbelievably sweet lady. And she used to live with my aunt, and my aunt passed away. That was incredibly painful too. I could do a whole talk on that as well. Maybe I will one day. But I remember I showed up in Regina, and I was there for a wedding, but I had a few days. And I knew I needed to go visit my grandma, and I had heard that she was having Alzheimer's. She was starting to lose her memory. And so I decided to go visit her, and I went to the facility she was living at. That was for people who have memory loss. And I remember I walked in and I saw my grandma. And my grandma, she kept looking at me out of the corner of her eye. Like she recognized me, but she didn't know who I was. And this is the woman who I'd spent every week. We'd go over to my grandma's house for dinner, or they'd come over. And I remember I walked over and said hello to her and gave her a hug, and she said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm your grandson, Kyle. I'm your oldest, your firstborn son's son. I'm your grandson, Kyle." She said, "Well, of course you are." But I could tell that my grandma had forgotten me completely. And so she asked me all kinds of questions about my life, and then I'd have to repeat myself, and then she'd forget my name and forget who I was again. And I remember sitting there in absolute agony, but I resolved in my heart I would not cry in front of my grandma because I would not make her sad. I went there to love her. So it took all the strength I had not to break down and weep. When I got out of the facility, I got to the car, and I'm not a particularly emotional guy. You can ask my wife, but I called my wife after I was spending time with my grandma, and after she'd forgotten entirely who I was, and my wife picked up, and I wept. Because on that day, like a knife to the heart, it was like I had lost my grandma. She's still alive. Still hope to see her again. I know she won't remember me, but I can't forget her. And so I had all of this pain, and I actually wept, and it was super helpful for me. So that brings us to the first step of how do you process pain? Again, if you're just tuning in, here's the big idea. Ask God, think about a painful moment in your life that you need to process. The first step in processing pain is this: we must feel it. So hear me, you don't have to cry to process pain. Some people think if you're going to have a strong soul, you need to weep a bunch. Not necessarily. You need to process. Some people can cry and cry and cry about the same situation, but never process. Some people need to cry so that they can feel it. And other people, they don't need to cry, but they need to actually mourn what happened to them. So the first step to processing your pain is you must feel the pain so that you can process. You must feel the pain so that you can process. So for me, I got out of the car, wept. It was the only thing I could do. And I just needed to talk with somebody. So I called my wife and I started the feeling process so that I could move through. But the second part is super important, like really, really important. If you miss this part, you will miss all of the gain you might get from your pain. I need to say something too. Some of you have experienced pain that God never intended for you. The Father of your soul never intended for you to walk through what some of you have been through. But I promise you that He can help you process it. This is the promise of Jesus. That's why I'm doing this one tonight, that you can process through it. Okay, number 2. Step 2 is, what was the purpose? So again, in a couple minutes, we're going to actually try this. Here's the big idea. What can I learn or gain? Okay, so again, I put the caveat out there. Some of you have been hurt. in such a grievous way. And I am so sorry. And I say this as one who knows God. Again, this might be too preachy for some of you, but I know him. And I would say this on his behalf. Some of you have such pain. And the Father of your soul cares deeply. And he never wanted it for you. But he will help you learn or gain from it. So for me, part of what I had to do after I walked through this is sit and go and think and pray and go, God, what can I learn or gain from this? Because it was like my heart had been ripped out. This pain was hellacious. To lose somebody I loved with my whole heart, who isn't gone yet. And I remember I was sitting there, and then, well, I'll tell you the end of the story afterwards. 3. Power for healing. So part of what we're going to do tonight is ask the universe, ask God, ask Jesus. When I use the term universe, I like to explain this every time. There are some of you out there, you're outside of faith, and that's awesome. I love you. You're my friend. But those of you outside of faith, when you say universe, I often think you're stretching up for God. And part of what you need to access is the strength of life itself, of the center of the universe, of God, of Christ, to help you actually process, to heal. So again, sometimes we have scar tissue, and scar tissue gets actually extra strong. There's a new strength there from a wound, but it must heal. So that's what we're going to ask for. So let me talk about the purpose and the power that I experienced, and then we're going to try. We're going to actually lean in. So for me, I remember I was sitting there and I said, God, what is the purpose? What are you trying to teach me? What could I learn? This is so awful. And I had this thought come into my head. And it was something to this effect. Now you know how to love like I do. I said, what? And then it dawned on me, part of the message of Jesus is this, is that God loves people even when they cannot love him back. And see, because my grandma had forgotten who I was, she could be kind to me, but she couldn't love me. But because I had never forgotten her, I could love her. And so God was going, I'm teaching you how to love like me, to love first, to love when it hurts, to love at great cost. And actually that purpose helped release the healing. So now I can feel appropriately. So again, another sign of unprocessed pain is this: you don't feel adequately or you feel too much. So if you feel nothing about something that's truly sad, you probably haven't processed that pain. If you're always hurting, always sensitive, and you don't have control, that's another obvious sign of unprocessed pain. So let's lean in. Again, back to our beginning question. Jesus, God, life, what pain do I need to process right now? Some of you are going to have to say, help me feel this. Help me feel what I need to feel so that I can process. So just do that right now. What do you need to process? God, help me feel it. Number 2. God, what was the purpose? What could I learn or grow from this pain? Some of you, the pain was more natural, like mine was. It wasn't violent towards you. Purpose actually is very healing. So just think about it. Ask God, process with him. What is the purpose? What could I gain from this pain? And then the third one is we need to ask for him to help us heal. So I'd actually love to just say a little prayer for some of you. Some of you, again, I mentioned this, you have experienced pain at the hands of others in a way that God never wanted or intended for you. And so I'd like to pray especially for you that his power would be released in your life. So I'm just going to pray for you. And if you can open your heart to Jesus, to the universe, God, would you help me process this pain? Would you help me heal? That would be awesome. Just ask him right now. And so I ask, Jesus, that you would release your healing power and presence over all those who are watching this, who need to process pain. May the love and strength of Jesus, of God himself, rest upon your soul and strengthen you. Cool. We're going to wrap up. It's 8:15. I really, really hope some of you might take more than 15 minutes to walk through. Some of you might need to do like 15 moments in your life that are deeply painful. But I hope, I long for great freedom for you. So that's the steps. You got to feel, you got to ask what could you learn? How could you grow? You need to ask for strength and healing that can come from God. With that being said, feel free to like, comment, share, or subscribe. I am on YouTube. You can catch up on anything you've missed. With that being said, I hope your soul is getting strong, that your connection to God and to others is getting better, and that you feel more free this week. With that being said, we'll see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Strengthen your soul. Thanks again for tuning in.